Live from the KMOV Broadcast Center in downtown St. Louis. This is News 4 with breaking news.
That breaking news, a verdict in the Trenton Forster trial. Good evening, everyone. I'm Claire Kellett.
I'm Courtney Bryant. Forster has been found guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of St. Louis County Police Officer Blake Snyder. News 4's Russell Kinzel has been at the courthouse following this story all week. He joins us live now with the latest.
That's right. Just a couple of minutes ago, the jury returned a verdict of first-degree murder. They also found him guilty on the other counts as well. Attempted assault on a law enforcement officer for pointing a gun at the other police officer there on the scene, and 2 counts of armed criminal action. Now, that first-degree murder charge brings with it an automatic life sentence. He is entitled to a sentencing hearing. It is scheduled for April 18th, but Mr. Forster, he waived his right to that hearing. It will take place, but basically it will be a formality, and he will receive a life without the possibility of parole. Now, let me tell you, you saw some pictures that we had earlier of police officers who had packed the halls. There were a lot of police officers here supporting the Snyder family, many of them this morning and for the verdict. In the jury assembly room, about 150 police officers were in there, and then when the verdict came in, they cheered, and some of them were crying. A lot of support for the Snyder family here today. Now, the jury heard evidence over a 4-day period. They heard about Trenton Forster's childhood, about his drug use, about his emotional, mental problems. They also heard about his hostility toward police officers, and they heard about his desire for a confrontation with police. Late this afternoon, the jury did have 2 questions for the judge. One was looking for a definition of cool reflection. That is, in order to prove a first-degree murder case, you've got to have proof that this person took time to deliberate, to think about what they were going to do before doing it. They made that decision. It wasn't just a reaction. And the instructions to the jury included that term, cool reflection, no matter how brief that period of time is. And the other question was, could they see some of the evidence? Could they see some of the exhibits? And so they did that, and they made their decision. Now, Blake Snyder was responding to a call of a disturbance at a house on Arno Drive back in October of 2016. He actually wasn't one of the original officers called there, but he was going there to help out. And when he pulled up, he got out, he went to a car, to Trenton Forster's car, and the defense tried to show that Trenton Forster was just reacting because somebody surprised him, startled him, and he fired, possibly in self-defense. But the jury didn't buy that because Officer Snyder announced that he was a police officer. He said, "Let me see your hands." In fact, when he first walked up there, he was very friendly and he said, "Hey, bud." And then he asked, "Show me your hands. Show me your hands. I'm a police officer." So there were several seconds where Trenton Forster would have known there was a police officer standing here, and it wasn't a big surprise. So the prosecution really tried to show that point, that there was some time for him to have cool reflection and make that decision. And the jury said, yes, they believed that, and rendered a first-degree murder conviction. Blake Snyder was a husband and a father, a son by the name of Malachi. In his closing statements this morning, the prosecutor said he gave his life for his county. His family will suffer forever. And he turned to the jury as he wrapped up his closing statements, and he said, "Do this for the officer whose son will never see him or ever know him." And the jury returned a first-degree verdict today. That's the situation here. We hope to hear from County Prosecutor Wesley Bell and St. Louis County Police Chief John Bellmer in about 20 minutes or so, and whenever that happens, we'll bring that to you. Live in Clayton, Russell Kinzel, News 4.
We also have a tweet just sent out by St. Louis County Police moments after the verdict came in, saying thank you to everyone who has supported the Snyder family and the St. Louis County Police Department in this difficult time. The jury, again, as you heard, found the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree in the death of Officer Blake Snyder.
News 4 has been bringing you all the updates with the KMOV News app. Be sure to get alerts sent to your phone with the app that is free in your phone's app store. This also just into our newsroom. Lindenwood University has fired its president, Michael Shonrock.
The family and the police department, and frankly our community, can put this, at least part of this, behind us. You know, Blake Snyder is always going to be with us. He's going to be with us like all of the fallen officers in the past. They never really leave us. They're always part of our police family, sometimes more so than even those of us who work here for 30 years and retire. We're never going to forget him, and I am grateful today for the jury, the decision the jury rendered. I'm happy for the family. I think it again causes some amount of relief. It doesn't bring Blake back, but I think it does validate part of his life. We didn't need this necessarily happen to do that, but again, I'm very proud of the decision rendered by the jury. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the prosecuting attorney's office. The case that was presented was done so in an outstanding manner, and I do appreciate that also. So we're ready to answer some questions, should you have any.
Chief, it's been 2.5 years. It's been a long time coming to finally get a verdict on this. There's been so many ways that the community has supported the Snyder family and honored his memory, but it has been a long wait, hasn't it?
You know, it has been a long wait, but I wouldn't want to dwell on that. What I would like to talk about is you talked about support for the Snyder family, and you talked about support for the police department. The outpouring of support the moment that the community learned about Blake Snyder. You know, the event, that impromptu event at Afton High School that night, from then on, there's been an outpouring of support. Every once in a while you'll hear people say, well, you know, the police don't get the support that they should. I don't agree with that. I think there's a tremendous amount of support in our community, and I think when we see such tragedies that happen out there.
You talk about it being a long time coming. Wesley, we've had a lot of people ask us, you know, why did this trial take so long to start? It was more than 2 years. Do you have any answer for that from your side of the coin? Or why, or is it normal for these kind of trials to take this long to get started?
I wouldn't say that it's normal, but it's not necessarily abnormal. When you have a case that requires this type of testimony and medical and the psychiatric evaluations and things of that nature, there was a lot that went into it, and it was important that we made certain to give due process to the defendant. That was done, and I believe the jury reached the right verdict.
Was there a key moment in court that stood out to you that may have won it for one side or the other?
I'm sorry?
Is there a key moment in court that the prosecution laid out that may have won it for one side or the other?
From the day that I came into office, this was a case that obviously not only myself but the office fully supported, and we wanted to make sure prosecutors had everything they needed. So I knew the evidence coming in. You know, the bottom line is he said he was going to do it. He did it, and he needs to be held accountable. And I'm glad that the jury did that, and that the family can now start that healing process.
Mr. Bell, how important is it that, to Chief, you also, they're getting the first-degree murder charge as opposed to a second? What is the message sent to the police department with that, and maybe to the community? How important is that difference?
I think it's very important. The jury followed the law. The defendant said he was going to do it, and he did it. And again, he needed to be held accountable. And we are happy that the jury reached the right verdict.
Mr. Bell, did you meet with the Snyder family today, and have you had any interaction with them, and what is your message for them?
I have had an opportunity to meet with them. They are in my prayers. I can only imagine what they're going through, and I hope that this helps them start that path, that path to healing, and at least that's my prayers that it will.
Mr. Bell, one of your themes has been...
Wait, can I get my answer to my other question?
Well, the question was, you know, regarding the finding of first-degree murder versus second-degree murder. Listen, this man killed a cop.
You have been hearing from St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell and St. Louis County Police Chief John Belmer reacting to the first-degree murder guilty verdict in the case of Trenton Forster, now found guilty of killing Officer Blake Snyder. We are going to continue our coverage of this breaking news on the KMOV News app and KMOV.com.
Now we want to give you a live look at the arch from our BJC